Shah.
I'm Elizabeth Madrigal.
And I'm Karen Morrison.
And we're the hosts of the Women's Mosaic, where the real lives of women and girls are shared and celebrated.
In this space, we honor the feminine and amplify the voices of women speaking their truth.
The Women's Mosaic delves into the real lives of local women through story-rich interviews, learning what works and what doesn't to enhance the health and well-being of women in our community.
We strive to share unique perspectives, resource sharing, and instructions on how to be kind by any means necessary. Welcome to the Women's Mosaic.
Today we are joined by Dr. Falguni Shah, a professor at Adler University's PhD program in organizational leadership and an organizational workforce systems consultant. She is also the author of a new book and has been busy doing book talks and discussions about it, which we're going to talk about today. So welcome to the show, Dr. Shah.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I'm so happy to be here.
Can you give us some examples of the challenges minority women and women of color face in mid-level management, according to not just your research, but your own life experiences?
Yeah, and I already shared some of that with you about my experiences of injustice that really caused profound mental stress for me. I was constantly feeling unseen, often dismissed, and forced to second guess whether I should speak up, like I was walking on eggshells. This personal injustice pushed me to ask. I knew it couldn't just be me. My research confirmed that these experiences are systemic, not isolated incidents. This subjective bias often forces minority women to work harder to prove themselves than their white male counterparts. You know, Karen, the most heartbreaking challenge reported was the pervasive fear of being penalized for basic self-advocacy. Women shared that they feel conditioned not to speak up because they fear being labeled with negative stereotypes, like you said, like being difficult, having a bad attitude, or being hard to work with. The system often feels designed to favor those already in the affinity circle, meaning those with similar demographics and backgrounds as the decision maker.
So just to follow up, I know what an affinity circle is, but just to kind of more broadly, that could be a white male with a white male employee, or someone who had the same alma mater, and so there could be time, maybe the same ethnicity, but these are, with most of the leadership in this country in the white male category, this has a profound effect on fairness, correct?
Correct. You're absolutely right. Some of those things, and it's basically the so-called favorites, those people that are in group, that have the same culture, that have the same liking, that whose life looks similar to yours, versus those that are out group that perhaps don't go to every happy hour because they can't relate to some of the activities that go on, or they don't drink.
Right. Your book outlines how women seeking promotions and leadership roles can be negatively impacted by bias. So is it possible, and this goes back to the 93% of women who felt, the decision-making had bias, but is it possible to diplomatically challenge these misrepresentations without that being interpreted as submissive or weak? I know women are very afraid of being called aggressive. If you're not smiling, I've actually had a boss say to me, "You need to smile more." And
Mm.
I smile a lot. I'm like from the generation where every woman smiles the minute you say their name because we're supposed to do that. And I was just shocked by that. And I mean, I was stunned. And then I realized, well, I was very unhappy in that, under that supervisor. And that's why, poker face, what I don't have. But so my question is, how do you do it without being, showing yourself as submissive or weak?
It is absolutely possible to challenge bias diplomatically without being seen as weak or submissive. In fact, it is a skill that can strengthen your credibility and influence. So there are three key things that I usually emphasize, right? The first one is to develop a relationship of trust with your senior leadership. When trust exists, it opens up channels for honest communication. Presenting facts, disparities, and inequities within that trusted space allows your message to be heard without that defensiveness. Second, to create allyship. Sometimes the most effective advocates are individuals who already have established credibility with the decision makers, people who look like them, think like them, or have already earned their trust. So, building that network of allies can amplify your voice and help ensure your perspective is taken seriously. And the third is to make strong business case for diversity and equity. When leaders see that addressing bias isn't just the right thing to do, but also drives performance, revenue, and innovation, it reframes the conversation from a personal plea to a strategic priority. So, yes, you can absolutely challenge misrepresentation diplomatically. It's about using trust, ally, and business impact to turn what might seem like a difficult conversation into a constructive one.
Oh, that's fantastic advice. You hear that, Radioland?
Yes, great advice. Once a woman embraces the practice of truth lighting and takes full ownership of her professional growth, what should she expect from her employer?
Yeah. So once a woman embraces that practice of truth lighting and takes full ownership of her growth, it signals that she's ready for the next big step. She has proven herself, met her goals, and is making thoughtful decisions to create that impact. At this stage, her contributions are visible, not just in completing tasks, but in the measurable value she brings to the business. So, in my experience, when a woman reaches this level of impact and demonstrates ownership, leadership takes notice. She's often approached directly with the next big opportunity, a role, a project, or a challenge that allows her to stretch further and continue to grow. It's also a point where transparency matters. She should expect clear guidance on what success in the next role looks like and what resources or support are available to help her succeed. The opportunities she is offered should be meaningful, aligned with her skills and ambitions, and provide a platform to continue making that impact. So ultimately, it's about preparing oneself to step into influencing with clarity, confidence, and strategic vision.
So,
Wow.
so what are some promotability behaviors women can adopt to enhance and professionally document their readiness for higher level responsibilities? So, you don't have to elaborate too much because you've kind of explained the mentality, but just what are some actual things that women can do?
Sure. And there are a number of things, Elizabeth, in my book, but I'm going to talk about a few that I think are really important. The first one is taking on additional stretch assignments because this demonstrates capability beyond your current job duties and responsibilities and showcases your readiness for promotion. The second one is speaking up and self advocacy or self promotion. Speaking up is crucial for showcasing your expertise, contributing new ideas, and increasing visibility. Self promotion involves highlighting your accomplishments, sharing progress reports, presenting in meetings, and volunteering for high visibility projects to create a positive impression on decision makers. And the third thing is networking and relationship building. Building strong connections fosters professional visibility and strengthens trust with leadership. And there's a number of others which, I want my readers to read my book and discover.
That's right.
And we can't give
That's
away all the tea now.
all of it.
Yeah.
Give it a great preview. Okay. Are there concrete steps a woman can take to build trust with managers and strengthen social connections within and outside of her workplace?
Absolutely. And I gather from the women I interviewed a few things that I'm happy to share. So, building trust with managers and strengthening that social connection is not just about performance management or professional performance. It's about connections and it's about building rapport. One concrete step is to develop a good working relationship where conversations go beyond tasks and deadlines. When a manager feels comfortable discussing family, personal interests, or even small everyday experiences, it creates a space of trust to grow. Another step is engaging in casual, authentic conversations, taking a few minutes to check in on how someone's day is going, sharing some personal stories, or showing genuine interest in their life helps humanize that professional relationship. And over time, these interactions build a sense of mutual respect and openness. Finally, consistency matters. Being reliable, following through on commitments, and being approachable makes managers and colleagues feel confident in both your professionalism and your character. So, combining these steps, personal connection, casual conversation, and consistent reliability strengthens trust and fosters a meaningful relationship and ultimately opens doors for collaboration, mentorship, and growth.
I love that you mentioned reliability professionally, because that is one of the things that, as a business owner, made me crazy when I had employees that dropped the ball. And even when, as, colleagues that drop the ball. So, you're doing an event and someone forgets to print the tickets or bring the tickets. I mean, it used to make me so crazy when I, was working in a group. And I think that professional reliability is underappreciated, except by the people who are doing the work, the ones assigned with the work.
You're listening to the Women's Mosaic on KXRW. We've been talking to Dr. Falguni Shah about her new book, From Gaslighting to Truthlighting. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors and then continue our conversation when we come back.
KXRW is supported by founding partners Morel Inc. Print and Marketing. Since 1993, Morel Inc. has offered high-quality, creative, and innovative solutions from their women-owned, union-staffed, state-of-the-art print shop. Morel Inc.'s experienced staff uses the latest technology to solve clients' marketing needs and within their budget. Find Morel Inc. at morelinc.com. That's MORELINK.com.
KXRW programming like this is made possible with the support of The Columbian, proud to be Southwest Washington's leading news source. Since 1920, the Campbell family has owned and operated The Columbian and ensured its award-winning news coverage. For the most thorough daily coverage of local news, national news, and local sports, both in print and online, and for subscription information, visit Columbian.com. That's COLUMBIAN.com.
Thanks for staying with us. You're listening to the Women's Mosaic on KXRW. Today, our guest is professor, consultant, and author, Dr. Falguni Shah. Our conversation with her continues. It's well documented that male employees are generally privileged by an accelerated promotion timeline over that of what I would say equally qualified women. What kinds of things can managers do? I mean, I know we put a lot on the employee, but what can managers do to create fairness and ensure equal access to the same development opportunities for women?
Yeah, that's a critical question, and unfortunately, it is well supported by the evidence. Men are often privileged with an accelerated timeline for promotion compared to women. Minority women, in particular, face significant salary and career advancement disparities due to the deep seated racial and gender biases. In my book, From Gaslighting to Truthlighting, I emphasize that creating fairness requires intentional, active engagement from managers. The goal is to shift from a biased environment, which often resembles gaslighting, to one of truthlighting, where fairness, transparency, and accountability are prioritized. Managers play a crucial role as a direct link between employee and the organizational system. Here are some concrete ways that managers can create fairness and ensure women have equal access to development opportunities. Managers must move beyond their passive supporters to become active advocates and sponsors. This means fighting for their employees' best interests, especially for underrepresented groups who may face systemic barriers. Managers need to be a rooter, work behind the scenes, actively work in the background to ensure their team members receive what they deserve, especially compensation and title. Managers themselves need training to recognize and mitigate unconscious biases that influence promotion decisions. Managers should actively allow women to lead in meetings or give them a FaceTime with senior leaders that most employees never get to meet. This ensures leaders hear their voice, opinion, and point of view.
So you have answered my next question with all these wonderful suggestions that we need to have for people to take a look at and
Mhm.
how to change that behavior.
Attempting to expose hidden barriers and systemic inequalities can be negatively perceived by leadership as criticism, disloyalty, or even complaining.
Mm,
And particularly when it comes from a woman, she's like
yes.
emotional. Is there a best way for a woman to proactively offer critiques and still protect her image professionally?
Mm. Not all negativity is the same. It's important to recognize the difference. Complaining is expressing frustration without direction. And that's usually the first stage of unhappiness or when something unjust happens. It's venting, but doesn't move things forward.
Right.
Well, that's needed. Disappointment, on the other hand, reflects care. It shows that we expected better because we believe improvement is possible. Now, speaking up is different though. It's courage in action. It identifies what isn't working and often comes with ideas or solutions to bridge the gap between the current state and what could be. In teams and organizations, creating a space where people can express disappointment safely and where speaking up is seen as a contribution rather than a complaint is critical. When someone brings both problem and possibility, that's where the real transformation is, and that's speaking up and not complaining.
That's kind of heavy. What do you think, Karen? Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
I think,
wow.
yeah, I know that, in my own frustration, I did a lot of ranting at home when I was in an unhappy employment situation. And I was so frustrated because there was one person who was a roadblock. And at the time, he had a lot of power.
Mm,
And, he undermined everyone because, he was kind of well, he was a narcissist, a blatant
mm.
narcissist. But I remember that my husband finally forbid me to say his name at home. That's how bad it got.
Wow.
He said,
Yeah.
unless you're going to do something about it, I don't want to hear that name. And he was absolutely right. And of course, at that point it had gone a little too long.
I just think I used humor a lot, only in my head. Like I would think when somebody'd say, "Well, you're not smiling." Well, in my mind, I'd say, "You've given me nothing to smile about." And then that would make me smile because my own conversations with myself would be just to keep it humorous. And then I'd just be smiling like, "Uh-huh, you have no idea." Yeah.
You're
No.
smiling inside.
Yeah, I was just smiling inside thinking, there's a reason for that. Or, say, well, my dentist said I might be having a little gum problem, so I can't smile today. Or, it would be like, it would be something, but it really wasn't because I didn't feel like I could say, well, the reason why I'm not smiling is because I'm not happy with the situation. Because in my life, I had two small children to take care of. And
Mhm.
I always felt like if I did that, I would jeopardize what little I already had because I didn't have the tools that
Mm.
I needed to make those decisions that would have directed a smoother career path. Now, later on, it came, and I'm grateful that I had my mother and my grandmother who, I mean, they put me on their shoulders and pushed me toward the ceiling. Where I've done that with my daughter, I tried to raise her to be outspoken, to
Mhm.
be fierce, to be everything that I wasn't, because I knew she could do it. And at the time I would be watching her, I'd say, oh, I hope she will go further than I ever did and not be afraid. And she's not. And
She's
so
not. She's
I
absolutely
always
not.
feel like, wow,
Yeah.
wow,
And she needed that to thrive and to survive,
Mm,
that's right.
right.
which
Right.
which I didn't, which I did get to a certain extent, but not to that extent. So I
Sure.
kind of learned the ropes on my own.
And I think we all do that. I
Yeah.
know speaking with Elizabeth, there's so much she did on her own, but then in the trusted spaces where she could tell someone that wouldn't put it down or make fun of it or say, "Well, I did this," it was great. So I'm grateful that when I go to her with something that's such a concern, she's like, have you thought about this? Have you looked at this? She never says, well, oh, phew, that's nothing. She always says, yep, been there, done it. This is how you get over it. This is how you jump over it. And that's what we have to do as older women, speaking to the younger women who may find themselves in the same situation we were. We have to give them encouragement and hope. But your book gives tools.
Yeah, I,
Yes.
I love that about your book. It definitely, it definitely is filled with tools and they're achievable, accessible, understandable.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I wish I had someone who could promote me. I'd talk to them today.
That's
Yeah. Yeah. And
right.
that's exactly, what you said, Karen, Elizabeth does is exactly truth lighting. You're
Mhm.
validating, you're affirming, and you're motivating somebody.
Absolutely.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
So, are there any misconceptions people have about gaslighting or truth lighting that you would like to correct?
One common misconception is that gaslighting is always done by men or stems solely from male privilege. In reality, it can occur in any relationship, like we talked about. It can occur at home, at work, in social setting, whenever there's a power imbalance. In workplaces, it's often very subtle, like I said earlier. That's why self awareness is so important. Leaders and colleagues need to recognize how their words and action might unintentionally erode someone's confidence. The goal is to empower others and not demotivate them.
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful for, the self-awareness piece for all of us is really important. And I think the other thing for me is not to take what someone thinks of me as truth. I think that all of us have an opportunity to really get to know ourselves and I remember the phrase, positive criticism, or and my mother would say something very negative, very undermining, and very disempowering. And she would say, "Well, I'm just being honest." And I think this is one of those things where, once you recognize what gaslighting is, and how it is so insidious, it is wonderful. So, before we go, is there anything we haven't asked you about that you would like to share? And we're going to be giving people how to get a hold of you and, get your book. So you don't have to share that.
Sure. Well, I do want to give a message to young adults and girls. My advice is to really think long term for your careers. Position yourself thoughtfully, set clear goals, and seek mentors who align with where you want to be. People who can guide you, challenge you, and open doors for you. For women, my message is simple. Be yourself, be authentic, and stay curious. Approach every experience as a learning experience. When you combine authenticity with growth, success will naturally follow. And to my peers in leadership position, I would encourage you to mentor others. Share your knowledge and experience. It makes a huge difference to someone's career and in building stronger and more equitable organizations. So my final message is for everyone to lead with Truthlighting.
That's
Oh,
beautiful.
that's powerful. Thank you so much for such a inspiring and empowering conversation.
And thank you for having me. I understand that I don't belong to the community that you usually interview, but my message is for women. And women in corporate America and mid-level management are everywhere, including Portland and Vancouver. So I hope that the message resonates with everyone across the board.
And well, we're kind of international too. We have
Yes.
some listeners because you can listen online from anywhere. So
Oh,
although
great.
we normally focus on this Portland, Vancouver regional metro area, we do have, wonderful guests like you that have an important message to share.
And thank you so much.
Thank you for
So, you've been listening to the Women's Mosaic on KXRW. That concludes the second part of our interview with professor, consultant, and author, Dr. Falguni Shah. If you'd like to hear part one of this interview, visit kxrw.fm and click on the Women's Mosaic show page where you'll find the streaming link.
For more information about Dr. Falguni Shah's new book, From Gaslighting to Truthlighting, please visit the website fortruthlighting.com. That's FOR truthlighting.com. And that's our show. New episodes broadcast on the second and fourth Tuesdays, but you can stream any episode online anytime.
We are so grateful to our guests for sharing their knowledge and life experiences with us in their support of the health and well-being of women and girls.
So until next time, be kind by any means necessary.
And remember to honor your power.